Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help ambitious private practitioners across the globe to brand themselves and grow their dream practices. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building ninja tips. Visit privatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and our signature marketing e-course. Here are your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. We are really delighted you guys are here today. And the reason being is we're diving into a new podcast mini-series. And when we do a podcast mini-series, we pick a very specific topic and we do back-to-back podcasts for 6 days. This is really exciting. And as Kate and I were preparing for this podcast mini-series called Tribulations to Thriving as a Therapist, where we had asked therapists to share their stories, really of their life, what prompted them to become a therapist and what message do they want to share. And oh my gosh, as I'm talking about this right now, I have chills because some of these stories were so amazing. So this is our first one that we're doing, and we are delighted to have Medina Wolf, who is a colleague, a friend, a local from where we are, sharing her story today. But before we do that and dive in, we wanted to say welcome and thank you so much for joining us for this podcast. And if you're brand new to us, we are so happy that you stopped by, especially during this podcast mini-series. And don't forget to binge on all the rest of the series and come back for some more. And we have a gift for you. Kate and I were able to build our 6-figure thriving practices and teach many therapists to do the same. And we have created your dream private practice, playbook, which is a freebie for you. It's our gift to you. And it's the exact methodology that we use to build our practices and help so many other therapists build theirs. So you can grab that at privatepracticestartup.com, head on over to the resources tab, and there you will see it. And we hope that you guys, before you had jumped into this podcast mini-series with us, we hope that you guys listened last week as we interviewed Kelly Smith-Dent on how to scale up and create a summit. So for those of you who are looking to diversify, or you're just really excited about creating workshops, summits, live events, you'll definitely want to check that out. So a little bit about Luna. She has a group practice for the past 5 years. She's also a qualified supervisor and offers an internship location for mental health graduate students through her volunteering work with Professionals United for Parkland, created after the Parkland shooting. She received 2 professional awards in 2018. Trauma work is her passion and her life calling, and I'm sure she's going to be talking a lot about that during her story today. Currently, she's pursuing her path as a volunteer with EMDR Humanitarian Assistance Program to become an EMDR facilitator. And a fun fact about her is that she loves dancing. And if you drive next to her, you might catch her jamming in her car and singing out loud. What would you be jamming to, Luna? I got to ask.
Well, a lot of the stuff, but a lot of it is dance music. That's my favorite.
Nice. Like electronic dance music?
Electronic
All right,
music. I still love that.
Awesome. It is very, very, it's very energizing. So before we dive into your story, let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor. Hey there, Startup Nation listeners. We have an interesting fact for you. Did you know that 75% of people will judge your credibility based on your website design? In other words, if you've been putting off updating your private practice website, you could be driving away potential clients and missing out on that income. So today we want to talk to you about a company called Brighter Vision. Brighter Vision makes marketing simple for therapists, starting with a professional website that's specifically designed to attract your ideal clients and get them to contact you. All of their sites come with unlimited support and are fully optimized to rank well with search engines. They've even designed an automated blogging and social media platform specifically for mental health professionals. Best yet, we've worked with them to create an exclusive offer just for you. Get $10 off every single month for your entire first year on any new Brighter Vision website package. Plus, try out their new social media automation platform designed specifically for therapists for 3 full months, completely free. That's a total savings of well over $200. To learn more and get started, head over to brightervision.com/try, TRY/startup. Again, that's brightervision.com/try/startup. Luna, I'm excited to hear about your story.
So crazy.
I know very little, I know little bits here and there, but today we're going to get like the full spectrum. So I'm really excited. And so, I mean, I knew you grew up in Israel, but why don't we kind of start there?
Let's start in the fact that I grew up in Israel. I wrote to you all that I am passionate about trauma work. And I think that it started there, just growing up in Israel. And when you live in a state where you're constantly under threat, the type of personalities, I think that it's part of our personalities. We're high intensity people sometimes because there's high intensity in the state, always knowing that something bad could happen because somebody may start a war. So that's where it started for me from a more macro perspective. And then that's where my passion started.
Wow. And how many years did you live in Israel before you came to the U.S.?
All my life until I finished the service in the Army. I finished my service in the Army, 3 years in the Army, and then I came to the United States to kind of like visit my family. Some of them were here, and tried to pursue my dream of going to backpack in South America.
Tell us a little bit about your family growing up with, siblings, parents, your family dynamics.
Yeah, so my family moved a lot when I was young. My mom came to have birth to me when I was, when she was pregnant with me. She came to Israel, had me while my family stayed in Spain. Then she flew to Spain, had me after 30 days, stayed there 2 years, went back to Israel. Like we went all over in Israel, and we have a really big family. For me, I thought life was traditional and normal. With the chaos that was at home. We were a bigger family, but I'm the youngest of 5. So I was basically an only child because the youngest closest to me was 7 years difference. And he was in boarding school. So by the time I was 7, I was by myself at home, basically. Everything seemed similar to what I thought it should be until I watched a show on TV that showed domestic violence, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like my home. Interesting. And then at around the age of 16, I actually got into a physical fight with my father that led me to run away from home and kind of like say, I'm not okay to tolerate this behavior toward my mom. Well, it was mainly toward my mom. He wasn't really physical toward me or anything, until that one incident that led me to run away.
Wow. So what was that like after you had watched that show and then you're like, this is kind of like going on in my home? Like, what did you think? Like, I mean, you already described like living in Israel, being on high alert, and then you have domestic violence in your home, like there's no safe place. So what was that like?
Yeah, it was really challenging. I think that the thing I tell my best friend from Israel, from the age that I moved to the Moshav we were living in, which is like a smaller village in Israel. She's still my best friend till today, running on 32 years. And I told her that the only thing that kind of helped me feel safe is her environment at her home. And I saw the dynamics there. Her parents are very loving until today. Like her dad will pass out, by her mom and smack her a little bit or say I love you or kiss her on the cheek. It's just like the most different thing from my household. And it was just so beautiful. And I said, this is kind of like, maybe that's what it's supposed to be. But I kind of like tolerated it, standing up to my father from very young age. I had my voice from a very young age. It got me in trouble with him here and there. But for the most part, I was like the model child, so I didn't get into it with him too much until, one specific event that he got me pretty bad. And the next day, and that's why I say everything happens for a reason, and I am such a believer in the law of attraction. The next day we had a lecture at school about domestic violence.
Wow.
It was the craziest. I'm getting chills as I'm saying this.
Sure.
Because it was the craziest thing ever. I went to school on a summer day with like long sleeves because I was pretty beat up by him. And,
wow.
And she came in and she started talking about domestic violence, and nobody knew about anything that was going on in my home. It was a secret. The dirty laundry you keep at home. That was the law. So she started talking about it, and I was, like I said, a model student, a model child. And I'm like, okay, I need to leave. And the teachers are like, sit down, Luna, what's going on? I'm like, no, I'm leaving now. And I left the class. So of course, as a social worker, she picked up on it. So she came to talk to me after. And she said, is everything okay? And I said, yeah, everything's fine. I just needed to go to the bathroom and you didn't let me. So, I went. And she said, well, if anything changes, here is my business card. And I'm here if you need me. Wow. And, that night I ran away from home and called her. And she started my journey of emancipating my parents.
Wow.
Yeah.
What gave you the strength and courage that day to make that decision to leave home and start the emancipation process?
To tell you the truth, I think that the biggest thing was wanting to protect my mom. Because she always used to say when I was very young, I'm here for you. I'm staying with him. When you're 18, we're going to leave him. And he used to say, Mom, we're strong. We can do this. Let's do it before. And she didn't. So I felt like I had to do what I had to do to change things. And this was the first time that he really, he slapped me here and there. But, this was the first time he really, beat me up. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be one of those kids. This is not going to happen to me. I'm not going to tolerate this. I got to fight this. Because nobody else is here to do that for me.
Wow.
And like I said, her appearing in school the next day to talk about, domestic violence was just so weird that I said, I have to do this. And my brother helped me. So I ran to my brother initially. And then the social worker supported us with the process. And I think that her support, the teacher's support, because then I opened it up with other people. Some friends that I shared it with helped me kind of know that it's the right thing, despite the fact that my brothers and sisters were not so supportive about it.
Except your one brother.
Except my one brother, who was the black sheep of the family that my dad really didn't like and always used to get in fights with. But he's 14 years older than me. So by law, he could be my temporary guardian. For a short time until they found the solution through my school. And that was the most amazing thing that happened to me because one of the teachers from the school agreed to be my foster parent.
Wow.
Yeah.
It must have been so hard for you at the time because you're wanting to protect your mother and have the strength and courage, and you had the strength and courage to leave and start this process and get yourself into a safe place. And then to have to leave her at home with your dad. What happened as you're pursuing the emancipation process with your parents' relationship?
So they fought it for a while. My mom supported his story. We had to go through a bunch of sessions with therapy to kind of show that I'm not just this rebellious teenager who's trying to make a fuss. And we went through therapy sessions while my mom is sitting there saying she's just exaggerating. It's not like that. It doesn't happen. And we went through a long process, but I had at least the support of my teachers saying this is a model student. And I was a very active in the scouts, the local scout in my moshav, kibbutz and moshav. So everybody knew me as this leader who does good and the really good child doesn't fit. So that helped, along with the fact that at the date of the court hearing with the judge, there was a moment where my mom was alone with him and there was a moment that my dad was alone with him. So when he was alone with him, I was alone with her. And I said to her, I love you. You know that, my sister was living in the U.S. then. I said, my sister will take you in. Just say the truth, because if you don't say the truth and they make me come back home, I'm going to run away this time to Tel Aviv, which is a place where you can, the running kids go, and I'll probably get into trouble. I won't go to my brother and I don't know where my life will end. So do the right thing. Tell them the truth. Please, help me. And she did.
Wow. What was that like for you, that moment when she spoke up? And was your dad in the room?
Well, he wasn't. I wasn't either. She spoke up, and then they got us all together in a room again. And the judge said to everybody that he made his decision and that he wants all of us to know that it was a tough decision to make, right? But he kind of looked at my dad and said, you have two options now. You either sign this paper that you say you agree for her to go to foster care, and then you'll have some visitation rights, or I decide that she's going to be adopted because she's no longer going to be with you. So those are your two choices. And my dad got super mad, but he, of course he told him if you're not going to relax, we're going to have to pursue, taking you to custody. And he kind of said, I can't believe you believing a little kid and what she's making up. And he said, again, two options. And then, of course, he chose the foster care option because he knew where I will be going. And then the judge said, this little kid that you're seeing in front of you, she's going to make great things in life. And she's going to make it despite of you and not because of you. And this sentence until today, stays really strong. I always use this sentence as my model in life. Yes, I'm going to make great things and I'm going to pay it forward to somebody else.
Wow. I have goosebumps on goosebumps. I know Katie always makes fun of me for saying that, but gosh, what a powerful series of moments. And then to hear the judge really having your back and those words resonating to your core and inspiring you in the way that you've helped so many others. Wow.
Yeah. Super powerful. Unfortunately, you guys don't see us because it's a podcast, but my video has been acting really weird today. So I'm not on video, which is hard sometimes when you're doing podcasts, but I'm tearing up over here, hearing this part of your story. And how powerful someone's two statements can be, whether it's for good or bad, and it's really resonated with you. And he's right. He's right. Wow. Yeah. So what was that like leaving the courtroom that day, and who did you leave with?
I left with that teacher, and with a social worker. My mom flew the country at midnight and came to the US.
Wow. Wow, you liberated her too.
Yeah.
Amazing, Luna. How powerful.
Yeah. So she came here in the middle of the night. She just packed a bag and somebody picked her up. She went to the airport and came here. I stayed in Israel. I stayed in the kibbutz because I was in the middle of my high school. And we started the process. I felt good with this woman who changed my life. Things didn't work out with her where she was. There was some issues with her husband, but I became really good friend with somebody else in the kibbutz. And where the way it works in the kibbutz in Israel, for somebody who doesn't know, is that as you reach 16, you get your own little house. It's not with a kitchen or anything, but you have a bed, it's a studio with no amenities, just a shower and a bathroom. But you get that, they try to promote growing up and autonomy. So I had my little place, but I would have to go to them to dinners and stuff like that. And I got really friendly with a kid that was living in the kibbutz, that I became very friendly with their family. So because of the issues with the husband of that teacher, they had to transfer me to that other family. And until today, I call that woman my mom. My kids know her as their grandma. She comes to visit us all the time. I love her. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. That support that they offered us, it was amazing. And it's really not for granted at all. So yeah, that was another piece. So it was tough. I had them, so it was good. That was that safety, that support, that constancy that I didn't have as a child. I got from them. And then I came here. I lived through it. I'm missing one big piece. My best friends. My best friends are crazy. I love them to death. Crazy in the sense that they would do anything. That's how we are with each other. We got each other's back no matter what. When I was in the Israeli army, and I would say oh my God, I just come home after 2 weeks. I want to sleep. I didn't have money anyway to do anything. So I would just say, I just want to sleep. I'll see you for a little bit tomorrow. They will break into my apartment through my window and come on, get up. You're getting dressed. We're going out. We're going to have some fun. And I was no, I don't have money. And they're don't worry about it. And that's what it was for years. Wow. Just them taking me out, paying for whatever, taking care of me, them, their families. So it's weird. My wedding was my best friends, their families. So I had 7 parents basically after. So It was really funny, but that's
You've got your village.
I do. The village by choice. Yeah. I always say this to people, that family is what you make it. It really is. And for me, that's what kept me going for sure.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
I'm just loving your story. But let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor. Therapy Notes. That's therapynotes.com. It's the highest rated electronic health record system that's specifically designed for behavioral health professionals. With over 1,000 verified reviews and an average customer rating of 4.9 out of 5 stars on trustpilot.com, Therapy Notes is the #1 rated EHR software that's proven to help automate your professional life. Billing, note-taking, scheduling, and telehealth have never been easier, with live telephone support available 7 days a week. So a real person can get you real answers really fast. Try Therapy Notes today with no strings attached. If you already use an EHR system, Therapy Notes can easily transfer your records safely and securely. Remember, telehealth is included completely free with every subscription. And there's always special discounts for nonprofits, students, and universities. Therapy Notes wants to personally thank you for making our world a safer space. Visit therapynotes.com and use promo code PPS, as in Private Practice Startup, to get 2 months free. That's promo code PPS. So Luna, how old were you when you went into the Army? Then how many years did you serve? And then where does your story go from there?
I was in the Army for 3 years. You are mandatory in the state of Israel, in the country of Israel, to do 2 years as a female, 3 years as a male. But I decided to pursue like a leadership track. So I became a lieutenant, and I had an area where I was observing. That was an amazing experience. I always bonded really well with the lower socioeconomic, those people who really struggled with the system. My commander used to laugh, I look at the group and I see, which will be the toughest group here? Okay, Luna, there you go. Here is your group. and I was like, okay, I guess I have to live with that. And he would be so amazed every time how the toughest group would be the best ones at the end of the journey of what we would do. Because, I led by example. I led by showing people that I care versus, I'm the commander and you follow my orders. It was never my style. Right. So I did that for 3 years. And then my sister begged me to come here because my mom and my sister were here. And actually by then my brothers were here too. And they all said, just come here, let's do this. And I said, okay. So I literally finished the Army. Within 3 months I was here. After I worked for a little bit and saved some money because I didn't want to come here, totally empty-handed, even so I knew my family was here. I saved some money. I came here because my dream was to go to backpack in South America. It was something that I always wanted to do. And my family was like, what are you doing? Save money, do something with your life. And I said, I'll do something with my life. Don't worry. That's coming. But first I have to do this for me. And, there was a lot of criticism about that, but I still pursue that. That was my dream. So that was for me to complete.
What made you want to have this dream to backpack through South America?
In Israel, it's very popular because, we finish high school and then right away they put us in the system to become soldiers. There was weeks that sometimes I would sleep 5 hours a week. I didn't really sleep much. There was a lot to do and a lot of actions and a lot of things that I had to perform on. I don't even know, when I look back, I wait for my kids will grow up and to tell them, I don't even know how some of the things that I did, looking back, how did I even function? It doesn't even make any sense, but I did, right? So doing that really, with that journey of the Army and, being able to do what I had to do there. And now I lost my train of thought, I have to admit.
That's okay. I was asking you about what made you really want to pursue this dream of backpacking in South America. And you were sharing about all of the responsibilities and everything that you had on your plate at such a young age. I mean, you went through so much. So what did it mean for you to be able to go on the backpacking adventure at that time?
So it's popular in Israel to go after the Army to either South America or India or Thailand. It's very popular. For me, my roots are Latin, so I always wanted to go to South America. And it was that freedom, right? The trip of not having no responsibility. It would literally be wake up in the morning in a beautiful place somewhere in South America, look at the scenery and be like, do I want to stay here today? Do I want to go somewhere else? Am I going to go, to some lagoon somewhere? Am I going to backpack on a mountain? I did like a 10-day trek in the mountains. I did 5 days. I did a 3-day. I've been to like Peru, Argentina, Brazil, Ecuador. I really backpacked in several of the amazing places in South America. And I needed that freedom. I needed that not to worry about anything before I get into shape and do what I want to do for my future.
What did you learn about yourself as you went on that adventure?
What did I learn about myself? I think that I learned about myself that I can also take time to enjoy. I think I don't know how much of that I learned through my life, because one of the things that I always used to say, despite the fact that my dad was really a difficult person, he gave me this ethics for how important it is to work hard and study and, get an education. Those was one of his biggest messages that he taught us all. So that was I was always very focused on what's the next accomplishment, what's the next thing to do, what's the next thing that you have to get through. Without really caring about backpacking or doing something fun for yourself. That's why none of my brothers and sisters, despite the fact of this being a thing, did that. They did, high school, army, school, college. That was the journey for all of them. Like nobody did the hiatus that I did to go and backpack. But it taught me that it's so important. I'm so grateful for that experience. It was one of the best experiences of my life to do that. Seeing, a big piece of it is also seeing the poverty and seeing third world country and people being so happy with nothing, living in a mud house with no water, no electricity. I slept in some of those houses when I was backpacking with them just to kind of get the experience, giving them food in exchange for shelter so I can just see what it is like. It was incredible, to see the happiness with nothing. So that's a huge message for life, in the sense that your life is what you make them to be. And it's not about what you have in your life in terms of monetary. Of course, that helps. And it's nice to have things, but happiness is so much deeper than that.
Yeah. And so then how long did you backpack for? And then when you came back to the U.S., where does your story lead to then?
7 months in South America. Until I ran out of money, basically. And then I was like, okay, I got to go back. If I had more money, I would continue backpacking because there was still so much to see. And I came back here and it was like, okay, what do I do now? I started working a little bit, but then I was running out of my legal status here, and I never wanted to be here illegally because I saw a lot of my friends who were here illegally and I didn't want to share that struggle. So I applied for a student visa because anyway, I wanted to go to school, and I had to leave the country to see if it got approved. So it was a leap of faith. I said, okay, I'm going to go back to Israel, see if they accept my application. And if they do, I come back. If not, I'll continue my life in Israel. And it took about 4 months. I went back to Israel. I lived at a friend's house, started working, started building my life there, kind of like figuring out what will be my next step, looking into what will be school there if this doesn't work out. And I got the notification that it was approved. So with the wishes of being closer to my family here, I came back here, started my bachelor's program at FAU. Super tough in English because my English was okay, but not at a, college level. But yeah, I did that for the 4 years. I did college, then I transferred to FAU, got my bachelor's, got a visa to work for a year. That was an interesting journey by itself. The life of an international student can be very scary in the sense that, oh my God, are they going to approve my visa? Is it going to continue? Having to renew my driving license every year to prove that I'm here legally. It was tough doing all that process and so many of my friends being illegally here and knowing their struggle.
It's a lot of hoops to jump through. And I'm curious, when did you decide that you wanted to pursue becoming a therapist and specializing in trauma?
Yeah, I knew I was going to be a therapist when I was probably even 12-year-old when I was volunteering like at a Big Brother, Big Sister organization. I knew that that was my passion and what I wanted to do. So right away when I started my bachelor's, my major was psychology. I did my bachelor in psychology, then took a year because you can't get accepted right away into a master as an international student. I worked at a JARC, which is this organization for mentally and physically disabled people as a group home parent for a year, and then I pursued my master's in clinical mental health and rehabilitation counseling at FAU as an international student still. During that time, I met my husband too, and and I really didn't think I'm going to stay here, to tell you the truth. You know, despite the fact that I have family here, my connections to my best friends in Israel and their families were so strong that it felt almost more than my family here. Because of all the chaos that there's around here and their lifestyle and how they choose to live their life. But, you know, I met my husband and then everything changed, and that's how I'm here.
Wow. And so, you know, what is kind of the message that you like to bring forth, or from your own journey that you like to inspire in others?
I want to remind people that, you know, the way I kind of always looked at life is that, I don't know, as a child even, just things will come your way. There's going to be obstacles, and if there's going to be difficulties. And if you just accept them with the notion that this too shall pass, and just believe in yourself, work hard for it, and vision the reality of what you want to have, it will happen. And that's how I lived my life. And thankfully, I am blessed to have everything that I have, from my family to the business to everything that I really want. I've always managed to get there because of all of those factors. So I really want people to remember that most people don't get to where they are just like that it comes with a journey. And we have to embrace it the best way we can.
Amazing. And Luna, I just want to make sure that we didn't miss any part of your story or any highlights that were important that you want to make sure that we hit upon or share.
No, I think, you know, just reminding people that when you give back, you know, through what happened with the Parkland shooting and volunteering, like I said, I've always volunteered since I was a young kid, and I always made sure that I put my client first and the needs of the client. So within my group, it's important for me that the clients we assign are assigned to somebody that is the right fit for them. And as a therapist, we have to remember that. We learn this in grad school, and sometimes we forget along the way because we want to build our practice. But you'll build your practice through doing the right thing, and not building your practice because of the monetary part of it. The monetary, we need to survive, we need to make money. But if you always keep your client as the priority and what they need in order to get them to a good place, you're going to succeed, because that's going to come back to you in a different way.
Yeah, I love that. I have a saying, and it goes, do the right thing for people, by people, always.
Exactly.
And that just reminds me that, it just feels good to be able to do that. So you and I met when you were an intern. And so just share briefly about, where your journey in private practice is today.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for the both of you. I don't know if even Kate remembers that, but I attended some, what was it? Was it solution focused therapy or something?
Yes.
One of the training with the two of you. Like with you, Katie, you're going to be my supervisor, but my schedule didn't fit. But I knew that I wanted to stay connected with you. So I said, is it okay that you just keep me on your email list? Like I know we can work together, but I want to stay, connected with you. Would that be okay? And you were like, sure, no problem. So we stayed connected since then. And if you would have told me then that I would have the group practice that I have today, I would say, no way. Like, I just want to have my solo practice, just doing my own thing. But, getting to have my solo practice when I did, and then having such a high demand, and knowing some of the stories that people told me about their experience with therapy, being so terrible, I said, wait, maybe I should just hire somebody, and then I can make sure that they're also doing the right thing. And that it started like that. Like my group practice was not necessarily an intention. It was just a fluid process that happened. And then my husband started pushing for the fact that, wait, if we can do 2, so maybe we can do 3, and maybe we can do 4. And I can't believe I'm even saying the fact that we have 15, people right now. It's amazing. But we have an amazing team. So I'm so proud of the team that we have right now.
I just love your story. It's so inspirational, and it's so neat how this has just organically kind of, molded you, and everything has just evolved in this way, and you're able to help so many people. Yeah, it's really cool. And for Startup Nation, if you're wanting to hear more of Luna's story and the transition from being an intern into group practice owner, we interviewed her previously on the podcast. So we'll put the link in the show notes section for that episode as well.
Thank you.
Luna, thank you so much for being with us today. And, it's a delight to know you we've probably known each other for over a decade now, and watching your growth. And, I've heard little bits of your story, and now to just really just share and hear your experience has been, beautiful. And when you guys are out and about again and I get to see you, I'm definitely going to give you a hug, but I'd give you a hug anyway. So
virtual hugs for now.
Yeah. So if you guys want to know more about Luna, she's at Helping Moon Counseling here in South Florida, in Boca specifically. And I'm sure she would welcome you reaching out and answering any questions that you guys have, but we really just so appreciate you guys being part of this journey. And this is exciting because this is our first recording, and I'm just loving this mini series already. And I just can't wait to hear more of the stories our amazing therapists are going to be sharing with you guys. And so up next, we have, just so you guys know, we will be interviewing Mary Manhard. And Mary's story is very interesting. She survived a suicide attempt and became a paraplegic. She was also, I believe, she was running Olympic marathons. And obviously she shares from her pain has transferred into her purpose. So you'll definitely want to check out that podcast next.
Yes. Well, thank you for being here, Luna. It's so great to see you, and I loved hearing your story. It was so inspirational, and we'll look forward to seeing what's next for you. See you next time, Startup Nation.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.